Conversations with Cubit. Thank you for joining me tonight. Yes, we're back, and we have taken several weeks off. I think it's been since June. And since then, I have retired from the Oklahoma City Police Department, and I took a little time off just to see what not having to go to work felt like. But that did not last very long, so I have started a new job, and I'm still trying to figure all that out. Also in this time, I lost my grandmother, who was the heartbeat of my family. And with all that going on, I needed to take a break from these live conversations. I know you understand about all of that. So I have to tell you how much I appreciate all the support I've had for these personal transition. The love that I received during this professional transition and the loss of my beloved grandmother has been fantastic. So thank you so much. But I think we are ready to jump back in and do the best we can to add some value to you and the community. So if you're looking for information, if you're looking for inspiration or hope, you've landed in the right spot tonight. Thank you for tuning in. I'm very excited about tonight's conversation and tonight's guest. This is going to be a fun conversation. It's also going to be unlike any of the conversations we had before. So now, if you are new to these weekly conversations, welcome to the family. Yes, I consider you family. We're excited that you found your way here. Be sure to check out some of our past conversations on YouTube, on my YouTube channel. Just go look up Conversations with Cubit on YouTube, and once you find it, go to that page, hit the subscribe button, please, and then hit the like button, please. And after that, just browse around and check out any of the past conversations. But right now, I need you to do me a massive favor, a big favor, and share tonight's conversation. That's right, don't keep this conversation to yourself. Tonight we are talking with two amazing people who happen to be single. I don't know why. In fact, they are so amazing, I don't understand how it's possible that they are still single. And I want to know why, so I'm going to be asking them some questions. So you absolutely must share this conversation with everyone who is interested in relationships, dating, and marriage. Please hit the share button right now. I also have to give a special shout out and thank you to my folks out here at Green Pasture Studios for hosting these weekly conversations. My friends Richard and Amy James are running things at this full-fledged movie production studio out in Spencer, Oklahoma. I'm always excited about all the things they have going on out here, and you will be as well. Everything from full-fledged movie production, commercials, and they even have a film training academy. Look them up, you will be glad you did. Now let me tell you the reason I do these shows. As you know, I just have three simple goals for these conversations. One, I want to add value to people in my community. Two, I want to inspire you to believe in what people and communities can become when we're willing to work together. And three, love people, period. No strings attached. There ain't nothing you can do about it. Just love people. All this means is that I want you to be inspired. I want you to get useful information and resources, and I want to celebrate individuals, groups, and organizations who are making a positive impact on our community. Every conversation here on Conversations with Cubit will be about information, inspiration, and hope. Are you ready? So let's get started. It is a massive, great honor for me to introduce to you our guest tonight. Joining me tonight is Mr. Josh Young and Miss Delicia Porter. And I'm not going to dive into their personal bio right now because I want you to hear that from them. But I will tell you, Josh is a professional basketball player. He is over 30 years old. He's single with no kids. Why? I have known him for years, and he is a quality man. In fact, he has been a guest here on Conversations with Cubit in the past, so you can go back and find that one. It's on YouTube as well. Delicia, I have known forever. How is that possible? Because she's my little cousin. She is beautiful. She is smart. She's over 30 years old. She's single with no kids. Why? Josh and Delicia have never met before tonight, and this is not my silly attempt to play matchmaker. Not at all. I just happen to know that both of these individuals would welcome a real, meaningful, long-lasting relationship, and I just don't understand what makes that so difficult for people like them. So I thought I would have them on to discuss dating and relationships in today's world. That's it. That's all we're going to do tonight. So please help me welcome my great guest and my family, Mr. Josh Young and Miss Delicia Porter. Welcome to Conversations with Cubit.
Thank you. for having us.
It feels good, doesn't it? Y'all some good people. So, and even to put yourself out here like this, that says what quality you are. But I didn't read a bio. I didn't do any of that. So, Delicia, tell us, who are you? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay. My name is Delicia Porter. I am 40 years old. I am a product of Oklahoma City Public Schools.
This school, matter of fact, you came to, this used to be the Green Pastures, so you used to be here. Yeah.
Yep, this is where my early education came from in Spencer. And when I came here, it was just a fifth-year center. And so this was like our transition from elementary school to middle school at Rogers. But after getting my education from here in Spencer, then I ended up going to Northeast High School for my high school education. And then from there, I went to a few junior colleges, but then I ended up getting my bachelor's degree in psychology from University of Phoenix. Took a little break, decided I needed to get my master's degree. So I went to Mid-America, got my master's degree in counseling, and that's what I do now. No kids, been single for a long time. As far as work though, by day, I work at a methadone clinic. I do substance abuse counseling there, and then in the evenings, I do mental health counseling.
Do you work too much? Okay, we'll get into that. We'll go there, because there's a lot of school,
Yes.
a lot of education, working while going to school, and so I want to know, has this impacted the dating life? But hold on that. Josh, tell us about yourself. Introduce
I
us.
definitely don't work too much. So my name's Josh Young. I'm from Lawton, Oklahoma. I'm a product of Lawton. I was actually born in Shawnee until I was 9, and then my parents and my family, we moved to Lawton. My parents had job offers there. So I'm a product of that city. At an early age, I started playing sports. So I kind of dabbled in everything. And then by the time I would say I was a freshman, I had this inclination towards basketball. I knew that it was the thing that I wanted to do. I had a lot of talent in it. And so I just kind of devoted my life to that, which turned out to be a decent decision because that's what actually paid for me to go to college. And so I went to Drake University in Des Moines, Iowa, played in the Missouri Valley for 4 years. That was a great experience. And then following that, I decided that I wanted to continue that pursuit of the game. And that's taken me to Europe, where I've been for the last 12 years. And so from the time that I was 22 to now I'm 34, I've lived the majority of my life in Germany. And it's been a beautiful experience being able to be across the world, see different cultures and people, learn different languages, and just get a better, I think, perspective of the world. And now I'm here sitting in this chair talking to you beautiful people about...
Well, so what brought this, it's interesting what brought this conversation on, because separately, I was talking to you, and I was talking to you, and it just happened to come on dating, and I'm going, and I said to Delicia, why are you single? And you said, you tell me.
I did say that.
So take me back to that conversation. How would you answer that? Why are you single? How would you legitimately answer that question?
So we were at your retirement party, retirement/birthday party. It was June 3rd.
Yeah. Ooh.
And we were, all of our family, we were just all kind of just hanging out and just talking. And I think you were talking to Reggie. And you called me over there, and I'm like, oh, God, what is Wayland
I'm
about
always
to ask
asking
me?
deep questions.
Yes.
In the middle of a party.
In the middle of a party. Yeah. And I said, I came over, and you said, why are you single? And I said, dang, I don't know. Help me out. If you could tell me, I'm tired of paying these bills on my own. That's exactly what I told you. But you want to know why?
Yeah. What do you think?
I think my standards could be a little bit too high for some people. I think the things that I ask for, though, are regular things. I think that they're always going to be too much for somebody that's not right for me, though. It's like I wouldn't buy a $700 purse. Somebody else might, though.
Right. Okay. Uh-huh.
So it still has value and all those things, but, it's always going to be too much for somebody that's not going to spend that. So I feel like that contributes to why I'm single.
I want to talk about standards, but Josh,
Okay.
same thing. Me and you, we're sitting around, we're chilling,
Yep.
and I'm going, wait a minute, you are in a fishbowl, basically, have been since college. A lot of eyes on you. A lot of people get to evaluate you. You get to be in the public, all this stuff. You have a variety of interests, I would say, as you travel the world, as you travel the globe, and so I'm going, wait a minute, no kids, coming toward the time to decide whether or not you're going to continue to play basketball, and then I'm like, we're talking about settling down, and you're in your 30s. What's up? So that started our conversation. Tell me, why are you still single?
Yeah, well, I think in my situation, I've actually been blessed to cross paths and be in some beautiful relationships in the time that I have been a young adult. As I reflect on it now, I think the way that I see it obviously has changed, which is the reason that I'm in this place that I am now. And I think everything that I used to think about relationships and how I used to put so much focus in certain areas, that shifted for me. So we always have this person that we want to come into our lives, or we have like a certain set of rules or standards that we have for people. And I think the thing for me was that after I started to evaluate that, what I realized is that I didn't even live up to the type of standard that I was wanting in the person that I was looking for.
Interesting. So you're saying I
good.
created standards for other people that I myself was not hold up to.
Yeah, I
Ooh.
think when I look back on the relationships that I've had, a big problem in my relationships was always me. And that wasn't always the case. I would always point a finger and say, you don't do this. You know, why are you saying this? Why are you acting like this? And
Does this resonate at all?
A little.
But I think now that I look back at it, and you know, this is all a process. Being able to growing is a process, and being able to, it's not necessarily what you see, but it's how you see it. That's why, you know, this development within yourself is such an important thing. And so how I see it is now different. And I had, you know, relationships where women were giving me like beautiful things, I think, giving me their all, really loving me. And at the same time, I was just kind of like, I was deflecting it because I couldn't receive it, because there was something in me that wasn't right. And a lot of that was being dishonest. A lot of that even at times where I was just being super immature, competition within my own relationships, you know, like the way that I saw it was very immature. And that for sure has played the biggest part in why I haven't come into this type of sustainable relationship, I would say, and why I'm
So
here
what
now.
I'm hearing, what I bet you're hearing, is yeah, he said a whole lot of stuff, good stuff, but basically what that amounts to is brothers don't want to commit. Is that what you heard? And has that been your experience?
I heard that, but I also heard that he didn't accept the gifts because he didn't feel like he was worthy of receiving them. That's what I also heard.
Okay, now I want you to run down, and feel free to bounce off each other.
Yeah,
now.
we will.
I want you to run down, Delicia, your standards, and Josh, if you would speak on the standards. I don't know if you want to rate them too high, too low, right on par, or that was a standard that I couldn't meet. I don't know how you want to address them, but give me the standards.
They're not that high to me. Okay.
To you.
To me. I mean, I'm just asking for someone that has drive, someone that has motivation, someone that is able to communicate, you know, because the moment that you ask somebody, you know, or the moment you meet somebody and they say, oh yeah, communication is important, until you ask them, what page are we on? And then it's like, oh, you know, everybody wants to be an open book until you ask them that. And so that to me, like,
Josh, speak on communication, come on.
Well, I think communication is only as good as the other person's understanding. So what's the point of communication is so that it's fruitful, right? So when you talk to someone, I think a lot of times we hear things how we see them. Mm-hmm. So everything goes through our filter, but we don't have the same filter.
That's true.
And so what happens is that you have to come into a connection or an understanding of what is your filter, what is my filter. Did you understand what I was trying to convey, not necessarily what I said? You know, and that takes work in a relationship. It's not just because I say something that you understand what I mean, and it vice versa. Until you get on the page where it's like, I understand exactly what my partner is meaning when they say, and also when I speak, it's very clear the intention and what I'm trying to convey to the next person.
So, 30 years in September, marriage, and I probably should have had my wife sitting
Yes.
right here
You
with
should have
me.
brought Cree.
I should, yeah,
You
but
should
like,
brought
Cree,
Cree.
what's
I know
up,
she
Cree?
doesn't like this atmosphere, but yeah, but I should probably had her sitting right here. But communication is what I would say is the key. But I would tell you that probably more than half of my marriage, I would have said, I'm the best communicator there is. But now, in this latter part of my relationship, I will tell you that I am still a great communicator, but the worst thing about me is my communication. Because communication is listening, not just talking.
Yes.
And so the good part about it is I'm able to share how I feel, but I have to work hard at hearing how she feels. Or I have to work really hard at that. And that's just in relationships at all. So when you talk
Right.
about an open book, are you as good a listener as you are a talker? What part of communication are we failing as guys? Where are we failing?
I think it's a little bit of both, though. I mean, you asked where you, as far as how I communicate. So to me, I'm more of a listener than I am a talker. I know I'm a therapist, and I know I have to talk all the time, but I learned a while ago, before I became a therapist, that I was better at listening. We did this, when I worked at Integris, we did this exercise where we had this minefield outside, and they had all these little things on the ground, like bombs, represent bombs. And so we had to be blindfolded. And so our partner had to guide us through this minefield so we didn't blow up. Well, I did fine doing it that way, listening to what, direction somebody is giving me. But when I had to reverse the roles and tell them what to do.
We're blowing everybody up.
I wasn't blowing everybody up, but it was a little bit more difficult to me, like aspiring to be a manager or a supervisor. Like, that's never been my thing. I would rather work collectively with somebody, than to tell them what to do, or for them to perceive what I'm saying as, giving them commands or something like that. You know what I mean?
Josh, so when I hear a lady press for more communication in a relationship, or good communication in a relationship, it stresses me out. And tell me how you feel about it, but it stresses me out because I think sometimes they ask good questions. I'm sure you're asking great questions and you want to create a dialogue, but sometimes I don't have the answer. I don't have the answer, and you're pushing me to give you an answer when I haven't fully thought it out yet.
Yeah.
So it comes back in silence. But silence is communication.
Yes,
Silence
it
is
is.
I don't want to talk, or I don't know. But men are not going to admit when they don't know. Tell me what you feel.
Yeah, I mean, I can definitely understand that. I think just from being a man versus a woman, we're just built differently. I think part of the challenge is always, like I said, to find that middle ground, and being able to come into some type of compromise, because we just don't necessarily communicate the same way. But if
Right.
communication is what's super important to your partner and the person that's sitting across from you, the person that you give your life to, well, I think it's probably conducive to you to work on that more than other things, right? So
Yeah.
it's also learning like their love language and
I was gonna
how
say
they
that.
receive things. And if
Yes.
how they receive something has to do with the way that you communicate with them, then I don't think it's I don't think it's crazy for someone to ask you to say, hey, could we work on this communication? You say things to me sometimes, but I don't necessarily get what you're saying, or I'm not understanding how you're trying to communicate this to me, or you don't talk at all. And a lot of times men, we'll do that. Like, things are going back and forth, and man, just shut down and just leave, just walk out, and we don't want any parts of that. But I think being able to like be mature enough to say, well, I'm going to communicate this, even if it's, hey, I really need to decompress. I'm going to take a minute and go outside.
Yeah.
But
Just
that's
like
the
that.
part that's not happening. So we'll send a text message, right?
Oh gosh.
It could be a paragraph or not, okay? But it could be, you know, we're putting a lot of things in the text message or whatever. You know, this is how we're communicating at the time. And y'all will pick one sentence out of this text message and y'all will respond to that. Like, what happened to the rest of it? So for me, I understand what he's saying. You know, you do have to be to the point where you are mature enough to say, okay, I can't talk about this right now. But when we're ignored, like I know for me with abandonment issues and some daddy issues, that takes me to a whole nother place. And it makes me, you know, go into other things like, oh, okay, he's ignoring me because I did something wrong. So then I go inward. Or he's ignoring me because I said something to offend him. Then I start thinking back, like, let me look at these text messages. Okay, 3 days ago, I know we talked about this. What could he have gotten offended about? So now that sends us into all of that when he could have just said, hey, right now is not the right time to talk about it. Can we talk about this later? Boom. I'm going to stop texting you. I'm going to stop calling you. I'm going to give you your space.
But so the especially a long
Long to y'all.
a long to us, a long to
Yes.
me, and they're all long. If they're not, if they,
Oh my God.
they're all long if they don't, if they're not just one thing, right? So we can't have a B, and a C clause in a conversation, and you expect me to answer all of it. I just want to deal with one at a time, one at a time, one at a time. That's just me. Josh, help me.
I guess like if I see a super long text message, I'm always like,
Yeah.
so I think the way to like combat that a lot of times is like if there's something that's super important we have to talk about, we got to pick up the phone and call.
Yeah, for
because
sure.
if you
Absolutely.
send me that
Text
type
message
of
not
text
gonna
message, I'll mess around and put okay. Like I used to like just put okay. You know we
Okay.
can talk
You know
about
what I'm
this.
talking
Yeah,
about.
for sure. We can talk about this later. But also,
But okay doesn't say we'll talk about this. Okay says
no, it's.
A
it says
whole
a
bunch of
another
stuff.
man
Yeah,
says a
it's
whole
like
lot
a,
of
it's
things.
like a
right?
side, and it's disrespectful, right? It's disrespectful in some ways. But what I would say is that you talked about, I think that is the missing link a lot of times between our communication, because you send a long text message, we see it, and we're like, oh man, either I don't want to talk about this now, or maybe I don't want to talk about this never. I don't know, you know.
Or I don't know the answers. I don't know. Or here it is. I don't know what she wants from me. What is it she wants to hear? Because I really want to give her what she wants to hear, but I don't know what she wants to hear. What's she trying to get at? So you're trying to, instead of be authentic and true, you're trying to give her what her ears need.
Which
Yes.
is what we always need to be. And so if you take a section out of that and you respond to that, and then you see that and you internalize it, and this is what I was saying, is that we're always gonna see things how we are.
Yes.
You know, so and that's super important. That's why we have to understand ourselves, but also that's why we need to understand each other so well.
Right.
Because like everyone has these triggers. They have things that are affected from things that happened in the past. And
Right.
just because I said, oh, we can talk about it later, doesn't mean that it has to be a big thing, but it might be depending on how you internalize that thing, you know?
Right.
So I think that's something that it's a really, it's deeper a lot of times than just those words that are being exchanged, because a lot of, I would say in my relationships, a lot of the debates or issues that we had, we would be talking about one thing, but it was blown up because of things that had happened previously, and even things that were deep within each of us, you know. And so being able to work that out is such a big part in walking and healing in a relationship with anybody.
You may not be able to answer this question because I didn't prep you for this, but
And you know
I
how
told you,
I am.
I know you want to be prepared. Okay, so walking back now at this level of maturity, and you guys are very mature, but you've always been mature, but you're very mature. Looking back, can you, yes or no, can you go back and say, you know, I let Mr. or Mrs. Wright get away back then because of my lack of communication skill or my lack of drive, or for whatever reason, for whatever thing that you now have obtained in maturity that you didn't have then, that you let the right one get away?
No.
No?
Nope.
No.
You want me to tell you why? though?
Yeah.
Or you want
yeah,
me
I
to?
want to know. How do you know that? Yeah. I mean, because you can look at them, right? You can see how they've advanced or whatever.
Well, I mean that too, but then at the same time, I feel like what God has for me is for me. I don't feel like anything that has already passed me by was what I was supposed to
wasn't
have.
for you anyway.
If it was, then it would come back, in
No
some
regrets
kind
in
of
those
way.
past relationships.
Maybe being a better communicator, because I don't think I was always a good communicator. I can say communication is important, I always have, and I'll say, I do well communicating. But when I got into therapy and one of my old supervisors, she started asking me questions, and it's like, well, what happens if you don't want to talk to somebody? And it's like, well, I'll just stop texting them. Well, that's not being a good communicator. So I think that there are some things that I can still work on. There's some things that, I think those old relationships or those old situationships has helped me grow, though, But I don't think anybody that I've talked to in the past was who I was supposed to be with.
Josh, same question.
Yeah,
You let 'em
I'm
get
thinking
away.
like, can you meet the right person at the wrong time?
Can you meet the right
Kind of to
person at the wrong
piggyback off
time?
what you're saying.
I think so.
Yes.
I think you
So, because for me, it's
Maybe. I don't know.
can.
I'm trying to.
So.
I answered that too fast. I don't know. Go ahead.
well, for me, I just I think about all the little immature things that I was doing in my relationships, and I said I've always had kind of a beautiful dynamic, and not necessarily within myself because I was very dishonest. I saw things very immaturely. Competition, one of the things I hated was being criticized, for example, but it was always actually a constructive criticism. But because of the filter that I had, I could never take it. It always turned into me having some type of animosity towards the young lady that I was in a relationship with. And then that produced this whole thing about competition. And I just don't think that I could have even accepted any of the beauty of that relationship. And I didn't actually.
So you admit you could have had the right one at the wrong time.
Yeah. And so now it's just, now it's a different time, and now being able to see all of these things and use them for being able to grow and be better. And I actually believe that too, because God doesn't make mistakes, and if something is supposed to be, now I don't believe that things are just going to happen. I think you have your part. You have to work.
You got to do the work.
When you do that, then it's possible that things that are supposed to be can come into your life. But to just be I'm not gonna work on nothing, I'm not gonna do anything, and expect it's just gonna come back to me.
Right.
I don't think things work like that. And a lot of times I think sometimes that seems like the narrative, it'll just come back to me. But I think being able to work on yourself and see what you were versus who you want to be helps to get to that place.
So I'm not going to let y'all get away without asking. I'm going to ask you. I want you to tell me another standard, because I know you had a list of them.
Okay.
I want you to give me another standard. You talked about drive and you talked about communication. I want to know what the next one is, but I'm not going to let you get away without talking about how sex impacts your decision in dating relationships today.
Okay.
Right. All right. So y'all didn't say, ooh, stay away. Okay, that's brave. They're brave. All right, go ahead. Standard.
Standards. Too many kids it could be an issue. I mean, I don't have any. So if I had 3 kids, right, and I met somebody that had 4, that wouldn't be such a big deal. Me having 0 and meeting somebody that has 5 or 6, and I'm not saying it's right that it should be a red flag, but that makes me, a little bit leery
Why?
about things.
What about it? Because, at this age, and getting somebody in a comparable age, that is going to be
They are going to have
factor.
kids.
No,
Yes.
y'all are saying
more than
without
likely.
it, but it's a high probability.
Yeah.
And grandkids.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
And maybe
I'm
grandkids.
old enough to have grandkids. So
I guess you are.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, just about. So, what was the actual question?
I want to know why. What's the big hang up about somebody having kids? Because I have a blended family.
Well,
And so this was
of
something I had to
course.
think about. This
Right.
was something I didn't think about it long, but I did think about it.
Well, it depends. So if I'm 40 years old, if I meet a guy that is, 40 years old, let's say 45, he has a 20-year-old here, he has a 10-year-old here, and then he has a 6-month-old baby. Absolutely not.
Absolutely not.
That baby
Is
is
it
fresh.
the kids or is it the exes?
That's what I was gonna say.
It could be a combination of both, depending on what the situation is. Like, I don't want to have to deal with things like that. In a lot of situations that I've seen, the man who's in the middle that should be controlling the situation between, the two moms or whatever, they don't do a good job of doing that. So automatically, I'm just like, I'm not dealing with that.
Josh,
Next person.
is that standard at all? Are you looking at that?
Kids?
Kids.
No, actually not. I think that a whole bunch of kids, I would have to.
A whole bunch of kids? Now,
What's
what's a
considered
whole bunch of kids? Because, right, yeah.
I guess I would know when I come in contact.
Because you
with
come from a large family.
I come from a large
Is
family.
that a bunch of kids in your family?
6 is a bunch of kids.
Okay.
But for me, one of the biggest things is obviously to be able to love the Lord is the first thing for me, and that is something that I won't bend on. I have in the past. I wouldn't bend on anymore. But also, I'm actually not so hung up on where a young lady is at in her life. It's more about where does she want to go? How does she want to get there? What's the goal that she has? Because I see that as almost kind of my job to come in and add that value and fuel for that young lady, and vice versa.
So kids may or may not impact that.
Kids may or may not impact that. I wouldn't say, like, because you have a kid, I wouldn't talk to you, because...
You said a kid.
Yeah, maybe you got 2 kids.
That's even
maybe you have
fine.
3. I actually have a very, like, daddy-like spirit. So I'm always around a whole bunch of kids because of my nieces and nephews. So
Same.
I think I would be okay with it. But again, it's the situation, It's the situation, it's the person, and it would be the connection of that spirit, because I understand that God doesn't make mistakes. And if you come in contact with someone that you can give all your love to, and do that without having any hindrances or like mental blocks about them having children or anything else that comes with that, I don't see
So,
why.
Delicia, the viewers, when you said that, the viewers just went down to like 5.
No, they didn't.
Like you did a whole
not.
lot of me.
No, they did not.
But you're okay with that being a standard?
I'm okay with it being a standard, but like he said, like, everything is situational. But at the same time, it's a different situation when it's a guy dating a girl that has kids. She more than likely has her kids. When I meet a guy that has X amount of kids, the question is, are you taking care of your responsibility? Because when you talk about what it is that you want in a husband, like, if he's not taking care of his responsibilities, we're not even going to date.
Yeah.
It's off. Like, we're done.
Right. I can appreciate that.
It's very wise. It's
Yeah.
very wise.
So let me ask you this: since you on or off on date, what is the dating at this? Has what the date is about changed as you reached 30, 35 than it was when you were in your 20s? What's the reason you go on a date? What are you looking for when you go on the date? Is it just a dinner and a movie? What's the end goal on a date? Are you looking for, is this marriage material, or is this what's a date about? What's it all about?
Even though I feel like I'm marriage minded and I'm relationship minded, I don't think that that's the whole point of a date. Like, I read this book before, and I think it was by what was his name? Tony Gaskins, I think. Something about Miss Right or whatever. But in that book, he talked about dating, and he talked about all these different steps and breaking it down before you even get to marriage. And I came to the conclusion that we don't know how to date. Like, dates are supposed to be just dates. You don't need to know where I stay. You just need to know that we have a date. You know what I mean? I mean, that's how I feel. Because why exactly what if this date doesn't pan out? I don't need you showing up at my house, or vice versa, because sometimes even
Which means you don't want them to know what you do or where you work.
They can know what I do. They can know what I do for a living. They don't have to know the physical address of where I work. Like, I feel like you have to gradually, there's steps. There's steps
I work
to
in
this.
fast food. Is Chick-fil-A? I ain't telling you Chick-fil-A. No, I'm not telling you where I work. I'm just saying.
Of course.
Yeah.
Josh, speak
You
on
can
this.
know.
Well, I haven't actually dated, like, in a really long time to like take someone on a date. But at the point that I'm at right now in my life, and especially because I think I want to move very intentionally as a man, and I don't think that I would take a young lady on a date if I didn't have a peak of curiosity or interest into what it could potentially be. And that's not to say that this is going to be like we're going to get married. Like maybe we go on the first date and it's just like, that wasn't really it. But for sure, it would be kind of the reason that I would take someone on a date. Otherwise, I'll stay at home. You know,
there has to be an interest for sure. I mean, that's the reason why we're going on a date. But I'm just going to give you an example. So I went out on a date probably 2 years ago with this guy that I met. We had this date, and I'm going to tell you right now, I should have really got up and walked out because it was football season, and he made sure where he sat was where he could watch the game. You're not even paying attention to anything that's going on right now. I swear to you, we never talked again. There was no text message, there was no phone call after that, and I'm completely fine with that. I don't need to know why. I felt like he told me everything I needed to know by paying attention. Yeah. So a date.
Can I ask you a question? What drew you to even wanting to go on a date with him?
We're in the same field, so we have like interests. I mean, he was an attractive guy, but I think the thing that started the actual conversation was that we have like interests.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that was enough for me.
And you're a sports fan.
Big sports fan.
You're a big sports fan. And so
Probably not on a date. The first date?
Yeah.
It depends. If I knew that that's what we were going to do.
We're going to watch the game. That's different.
Yeah, if we're going to go watch the game, that's different.
It's different.
Yeah.
So I'm fine with that. I mean, he was checking his phone under the table to see what the score was. I'm like, dude, like I'm ready to go.
Right.
You should escape.
That's good. What's the deal breaker on a date? How do you know when you're on a date that's a deal breaker, Josh?
Bad hygiene. I'm out of there.
Hygiene.
He said I'm out of there.
They're not even coming to the date with bad hygiene.
Outta
So
there.
that box is checked. What else will kill it? What else will kill it?
That was really the one that just jumped in my head right away.
I bet.
Outside of that, yeah, I think I kind of along the lines, like, if I'm going there with you, I'm giving you my attention. You know, why else we're here? And if someone was just like everywhere, phone, it'd be a deal breaker for me too.
That's definitely a deal breaker.
You know, and not to say like I'm the world, but like right now it's just really us here. Nothing else really matters. So that's shout out to you for being able to be like, we'll never talk again.
Right. So tell me how sex impacts the dating relationship today.
You want to go first?
No, I'm gonna let you go
All
first.
right, because I will. I'll go first.
Okay, dive in.
I have strong feelings about this. And,
Okay.
And well, I would say in my own life, I'm not a virgin, so I've had sex, and I have in every relationship that I've ever had, it's been a part of it. The reason that I see it differently now is because I think from my experience, and I'm not gonna say this is everyone's experience, is that when you introduce sex into something that's a connection, now notice the difference, not a commitment, a connection.
Right.
When you introduce sex into a connection, at that point, the young ladies, at least the ones that I have been able to be in relationship with, have dealt with, a lot of times that is the starting process for falling in love. Well, for young men a lot of times, love doesn't come until the commitment comes. Well, the sex usually happens way before the commitment. And so you've now done the act of commitment, and now the young lady thinks we're in a committed relationship because we're doing the act of commitment. Meanwhile, the young man is still in his own mind. There's no commitment there.
And
it's
somehow
just
we
sex.
know that. And so
Yeah.
we keep telling we carry on the behavior of commitment.
Yeah, we carry on the behavior of commitment. And it's one thing to say, this isn't what I want, but what do young men do? We don't say anything. And so without saying something, it
send the
seems
okay
like we
return
send the
text.
okay. You know, it seems like we're saying okay to everything that she's suggesting, everything she's recommending. When she says stuff that's like super emotional and love-filled, and we're just like, yeah, but we don't ever reciprocate. We just don't not say anything. So then the reason I think that it creates this bad dynamic is because of that. So now you have a lot of women who are in love with men who are not committed to them, because men don't show love until they commit themselves to you.
That's good.
And a lot of women do
That's
that
really
at
good.
sex.
Ooh.
Well, I think though that's because we tend to think more with our hearts, and we're so emotional, and men think with their parts. That's what I think.
Hearts and parts.
Hearts
and
and
parts.
parts.
Tweet that.
That's a good one, yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good one. That's very good.
That's just what
That's
I
true.
think, though. That's just been my experience, and it is a lot of pressure, you know, to have sex in relationships. But then at the same time, you know, I'm okay with saying no. I'm okay with saying no and not having an explanation behind saying no. You know, 90% of the time, I do what I want to do anyway. You know, the other 10% is like, if you know, it's other stuff like my mama wants to go somewhere and nobody will go with her, so I'm like, oh, okay, mama, I'll go. That's
Right.
the other 10% of stuff that I don't want to do, but 90% of the time I do what I want to do. I'll say no, and I'm okay with that, you know. But
What's the pressure? Is you say there's pressure? What's the pressure? Is it if the pressure feels like if I don't submit or suggest that it's a possibility that this relationship doesn't even get off the ground?
Yes, and me and my friend talked about this earlier. So we're on two different ends of the spectrum. I don't give things enough time. You know, when I see something like he said, bad hygiene, I'm like, okay, I'm out of there.
The ick.
You know, there are certain deal breakers that we have, and I'm just like, okay, yep, I'm done. Like, I don't have to ever talk to this person again. I haven't caught feelings. I'm good. I'm okay. Whereas one of my friends, she gives a lot of chances. Both of us are in the same position. You know, we got to be able to find some type of middle ground to say, okay, I'm doing a little bit too much, or I'm not doing enough. I'm not giving enough chances. So there is, you ask what, you know, where's the pressure come in? Sometimes it's from the beginning, from the very beginning. And that just lets me know, though, that men get away with doing that. Like, they are successful at doing it, because why would you ask me something like that the first day I met you, or the first few conversations that we've had online? Like, that's just dumb to me. But I'm okay with it, because that lets me know, like, okay, I'm out of here. Like what you said. And it don't bother me.
Right.
I think it's.
Do
Yeah.
women apply pressure like that?
Do women?
Do women
pressure?
apply the pressure for sex in dating to men?
It's not the same if they do, because usually men are like, for sure, you know, like it's not, you know what I mean? You don't feel pressure. You're just like,
Right.
thank God. Or
Yeah, right.
But I think now it's really ruining relationships, you know, and it's tragic because there are a lot of, I think, young women who are in relationships with men who aren't in relationship with them.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah.
and a lot of that comes because of that, again, because of that connection. And I'm telling you, it's the difference. You'll have a connection with someone, but just because he says we had a great connection doesn't mean that he's committed to you. You know, and that's a big difference, I think, in the dating scene now, and because people are just kind of fulfilling their desires. Well, you have to think about it. If you want to start to mature in your life, well, maturity is rooted in love. Understanding love starts with self-image, and then understanding like love for myself. Well, love for yourself also manifests itself in self-control. So even in just from that standpoint of being able to really walk in love, you have to be able to walk in some type of control. And I say anything that you can't fast from, you're addicted to. And you ask people to stop having sex right now, they're like, hey, I can't stop having sex. But I think if you really love someone, you'll be willing to do that for them. And you have to do it from the beginning. Because I've had relationships where we started like that, and in the middle I was like, yeah, we shouldn't be doing this. She's like, what are you talking about? You know, at this point, like, we're 6 months in, what are you talking about?
How long was your longest relationship?
5 years.
Yours?
Same, 5 years.
What happened? You ended, they ended, what happened?
Dang, so this is weird, but my only real relationship was from the time I was 18 till about 23. I've never had like another person I could say, well, oh, that's my boyfriend.
Okay, so I got to ask this question. The follow-up question to that
Yes.
is that past relationship influencing all the possibilities of the next one and the next one and the next
It
one?
has no.
You don't bring any of that
influence.
baggage?
Nope.
Because
I don't
women
even
bring
remember
baggage.
it. I'm 40 now. I was 20, 23,
You don't even remember,
24
okay.
then. No,
Yeah.
it has nothing to do with it.
Okay, all right. I'm sorry, you were talking
Oh,
about
it ended.
how it ended. Yeah.
So it really never really came out. But when we did break up, like the conversations got less and, lesser and lesser. But like I said, it never came out. But ironically, a few weeks after we broke up, he had another girlfriend. So he was cheating.
Mm-hmm.
He was already setting it up.
Now, so I'm saying, are you guarding yourself in the next relationship, looking for the clues that you missed in the last relationship?
Am I guarding myself?
Are you going, okay, I look back at that last relationship, that one was 5 years, the whole time he was cheating, and I think he started cheating here. Mm-hmm. And so I missed that clue, I ain't gonna miss that clue in this next relationship. Mm-hmm. And so you go into that next relationship with all these safeguards up, and now the guy is playing defense for something he didn't do.
Mm-hmm. I think that may have been the case when there were situations that came right after that. But now being 40 and I haven't dated in a long time,
right?
Then no, I don't. I think my guard is up naturally though, because my peace is expensive to me.
Wow.
And so I just feel like my guard is already up, because if I have all this peace already, and then I'm bringing somebody else in, even if it is just a date, like that's important to me, because I pay attention to energy, I pay attention to stuff like that. So it's important to me.
Josh, longest relationship, you ruined it, they ruined it, how did it end?
Yeah, I definitely ruined it. Definitely. And actually it was 6 years because it was on and off. But I definitely ruined it, and it ended, I think initially she ended it, but because of me.
Right. Right.
So.
Did you sabotage it though? You were like, it was over, but I want them to say it's over.
Well, you know what happened is, towards the end of the relationship, I started on this like kind of healing journey and self-awareness, self-development, and my ex would always say to me, like, or not always, but she would say to me that when I do something, I'm obsessive, which is true. If I decide that I'm going to do something, I do it. Mm-hmm. Like I'm going at it. And so in this time, it was like reading all these books. I was listening to a whole bunch of podcasts. Clubhouse had just come out. I was on Clubhouse all day, listen, like everyone in the world. But at the same time, I was neglecting our relationship. And any relationship that you want to thrive, you have to work on. And that's a commitment, And so after a while of that feeling neglect, she was like, I can't do this anymore. Mm-hmm. And then I think there was a point where, we talked, even after we broke up, we had communication. And then I don't know, I just felt like I felt different, and so that's how it ended, because I think, like I said, even during the whole time, and there might have been even some guilt in that, from the way that I had treated her, and I was just like, I'm just gonna cut this here. And that's how it ended, so.
Yeah. All right, last question, and we got to go. But I want to know, because I know both of you are spiritual and deeply rooted in your faith. How is your faith impacting your dating decisions and your relationships today?
This one's yours. Yours.
I kind of feel like, it's important. Like he said earlier, like if you don't have a relationship with God, we're already done, So I feel like, it means everything. It means a lot. I feel like, God's time is sufficient too. So, I feel like he puts us in these situations, to make us more aware, to make us grow and things like that. But that's the first thing, and really the only thing. If we're not already on the same page in reference to that, then it's a done deal. And I kind of feel like, just being in church all my life, and believing in God, I just feel like, it's I'm trying to figure out how I'm trying to say this, but it's like,
important. It's important.
It is important. We do have to have this relationship with him, but I feel like, I think you had asked the question earlier about, hope and things like that. Like, I feel like it gives us hope, it lets me know that things are still coming, positive things are still coming. He's not gonna continue to bless, everybody else around me and not me too.
Right.
And I understand, like he said too, you have to do the work. So that's what it means to me.
Josh?
Yeah, at this point, that's
That's it.
That's it.
That's the number one thing.
That's
And you
the
can work
number
on the
one
rest of it.
Yeah, I mean the rest of it's important too, and we didn't talk about that. But like you lay the foundation. The foundation is love. God is love, so God's the foundation, and you have to have that foundation because once you start to build the pillars of your house, well, if it's not structurally put up the right way, well then all of that will fall. It won't matter what you build on top of it if you don't build the right thing.
Right.
And I've realized that in my life, in this short life of 34 years, and so now it's just super important. And it's not just because you go to church, oh, we're equally yoked. That's
Right.
not true either. It's not like, hey, you go to church, I go to church, so everything's copacetic. It's that spirit connection that you'll understand that this person knows who God is. That is what's important to me because I know God. And so I want to be able to lead a wife and a family that also know who God is and then be able to really build something strong on that foundation.
Right. Man, I want to keep going. But I know that so many people are checking out after about 45 minutes, and we've been going for a while. But I wanted to have this conversation for a couple of things. It's because I believe you guys are quality individuals. Your head is on straight, and you give me a lot of hope in our community because I know that you believe in family. And it's going to be, and our families, strong communities are built by strong families, and you guys are a part of strong families. And should you ever decide to get married, I have the great confidence that it will be a part of helping us build a better, stronger, more reliable, hopeful community. So I appreciate you sharing your heart and sharing your secrets. I guess this is personal conversation.
lying,
This is a personal conversation. That's good. I'm sure tell people how they can connect with you, your businesses, your profession, all that kind of stuff. And I'm sure they're gonna be hitting you in the DMs about other stuff too. But I ain't got nothing to do with that. Tell them, Josh. Tell them.
Oh, where
how
am
to
I?
get you. Here, wherever.
Oh, okay, so if you'd like to connect, and please reach out. You can go to www.competitionof1, all that spelled out.com. I talked a little bit about self-image, about self-love, about self-control, and that's really what this whole brand is about creating self-awareness so that we can do all the things that God is calling us to do in this time. So please go there. If you want to book a call, click on that. We can jump on a call and see how we can progress from there. I look forward to connecting with you.
It's good. Delicia, tell them how you can connect with you.
So you can connect with me professionally by going to legacyfs.org, where I'm a clinician there. But you can also go to Psychology Today, and you can search my LLC, which is Taking a New Journey.
That's it. Conversation with Cubit. Next week, I have a candidate for CD5, a congressional candidate. We're going to jump back into politics with my man Joshua Harris Teal next Tuesday, 7:30 live right here on Conversations with Cubit. Thank you for joining us. You have a nice night.